Hi, in this video we'll be continuing with the C# video tutorials. We'll be going over passing arguments to methods, the notes. So here we'll just have passing arguments to methods. Okay, so we have so an argument is any piece of data that is passed into a method when the method is called. So an argument is also a parameter, so I usually say parameters. But they're also so I think in C# the terminology might be a little bit different. But an argument is any piece of data that is passed into a method when the method is called. So in the following statement, basically the statement calls the messagebox.show method and passes the string hello as an argument, such as messagebox.show, which we'll do in a sec. So then a parameter is a variable that receives So a parameter is a variable that receives an argument that is passed into a method. So in the following, value is an int or val is an int parameter. So you could have so basically you could have a private void display value passing an int value. Then you could say messagebox.show value.toString. So I usually use argument and parameter interchangeably, but technically a parameter is a variable that receives an argument that is passed into a method, and an argument is any piece of data that's passed into a method when the method is called. So I use them interchangeably. Technically, maybe I should be more specific. Either way, it's the same thing pretty much. Just one is variable, one could just be a string. It's really the same thing, to be honest, but some languages might be more strict than others. So we have here, so for example, an example of a call to display value method with the value 10 as a parameter is such as display value 5. So that's just a parameter. It's really the same thing, so let's just type all this out here just to make this clear. Actually, we don't really, well yeah, we have some code notes to do at least. So when I do the notes, I'm going to try to get all the code notes. The small code notes, I'm going to try to get those in the slide videos. And the big code examples, I'll also have separate examples on those with the labs. So basically, let's do that. Excuse me. So I'm just in Rider here again today. Okay, let's say here, let's say that an argument is any piece of data that is passed into a method when the method is called. So passing arguments to methods. An argument is a piece of data that is passed into a method when the method is called. So an argument argument is any piece of so an argument is any piece of data that is passed into a method when the method is called. So here we'll have some more here. So in the following, the statement calls the message box dot show method and passes the string it doesn't have to be hello, it could be just like fruit, whatever, fruit as an argument. Okay, so that could just be like this: message box dot show fruit. That's an argument. Technically, I usually just say parameter, but it's specifically C# wants basically a variable to be a parameter and an argument to be like a string or a non-variable kind of parameter. So similarly, a parameter is a variable that receives sorry. Before E, it's up after C. Okay, so a parameter is a variable that receives an argument that is passed into a method. So a parameter is a variable that receives an argument that is passed into a method. Such as so val is an int param to get a private void, display value. Here we could have an int value. Then here we could have a message box dot show val dot, sorry, this should be int val dot toString. Should have an extra parentheses. So private void display value int val message box dot show val dot toString. That's a parameter because a parameter is a variable that receives an argument that is passed into a method. So basically, your parameter is going to have a type, whereas an argument could just be no type. So it's similar yet different. I believe Java doesn't distinguish them like that. They could be either or. I could be wrong, but from what I remember is that they're basically interchangeable. Often I do see them interchangeable. Perhaps the proper use of the terms is like this, slightly different but similar. So if there's no type, it's an argument. If there's a type, then it's a parameter. So similar to that. Actually, there's a bit, just a little bit more here. So we have, excuse me, so we have, so basically, example of call to display val, method with some large number as param is, it's a bit, okay, it's a bit confusing because a parameter is a variable that receives an argument that is passed into a method. So it's kind of confusing because here they're just saying that the value. So this is an example of a call to display val method with call to the display val method with a value with some large number as parameter. That would be display val, such as some large number. That differentiates from this. Perhaps it's because it's a method, but both are methods, so it's a little bit confusing. They're almost interchangeable. The book seems to be contradicting itself otherwise. I wouldn't worry about this too much. Okay, so contents of variables as arguments. So you can pass the contents of variables as arguments, for example. So we could have, wait, hold on a sec here. Okay, whoops, sorry. So let me read this first. So contents of variables as arguments. You can pass the contents of variables as arguments, for example, int x points to 5, display value x, display value method call passing an x, then display value method call passing an x times 4. So private void display value int takes an int value. Okay, so the definition of display value first is private void display value takes parameter int value, so messagebox.showValue.toString. Now display value, so int x can point to 5, then we could say display value passes in x, then calls display value passing in x times 4. So this is contents of variables as arguments. You can pass the contents of variables as arguments, for example. Value as an int parameter in the value is an int parameter in the display value method. The value is an int parameter in the display value method. In this example, x is an int variable with the value 5. The contents are passed as an argument. So it's a little bit tricky. So value is an int parameter. So we'll talk about this in a sec. The expression x times 4 also produces an int result which can be passed as an argument. Another example is display value passing an int.parse, passing in 700. Okay, so someone's like, what the hell is he talking about? Okay, we're talking about pretty much, so I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So I have here, so let's just say private. So this is contents. The hell are you talking about? Like someone just probably just said that. What the hell is this guy talking about? Like he's just talking. He's not even showing anything on the screen. What an idiot. Right, so don't worry, I'm going to try to explain here as well with the note. So we have contents of variables as arguments. Okay, so then we'll have a method definition here. So we'll have a private void display value. Takes int val as a parameter. Then here we'll say messagebox.show. We'll call value.toString as parameter again. Oops, val.toString. Okay, then we have, let's just say that's our definition. We have some kind of main function here or something. Then we have int, so then we have int x points to 5 or whatever, some other value. And we have display value. So display value passing in x and display value. Okay, so I think what they're getting at is that we're passing the argument to the parameter, which is kind of confusing. I just think of them all as parameters, but so basically, so int x points to 10, so display value passing in 10. Then we have here display value passing x times 4, or not 4, whatever, except 10. So int x points to 10. Display value passing in x, display value then passing in x times 10. So value, or val, is an int parameter. So right here, where are we? Over here. So val is an int parameter in the display value method, in the definition, or the, what do they call it? Declaration, or header. They call it a header. So it could be a definition, declaration, header, whatever. So value is an int parameter in the display value method. In this example, x is an int variable with the value 5, so then we have also x over here, which is a local so we have int val, so it takes an int val. It takes an int val. And then we're saying, okay, val, sorry, no. So then here, x is an int variable with the value 10. Its contents are passed as an argument, so they're saying this is passed as an argument. So the expression, so it's basically saying that x here is passed as an argument to the parameter. So they're thinking, I think well, okay, so I think I know what's happening here. Java has, they talk about, when they talk about methods, they have formal parameters and actual parameters. So pretty much that's what I'm used to. That's where I learned my methods from, which is almost the exact same thing. In C#, they're saying this is your parameters, and these, so formal parameters would be these parameters, but your actual parameters would be an argument. That's what I believe that's the difference. I could be wrong, but I think that's what it is, because I'm pretty sure I studied that Java pretty seriously. Like I wrote everything out by hand, and I also typed it. I think, because I remember, or they might have them also as formal arguments and actual arguments. And I believe they said either or of those, and they said you could use them interchangeably. So it seems like C# is a bit different. So maybe that's why, hopefully I didn't confuse anyone. So that's the way that C# does it. The expression x times 10 also produces an int result which can be passed as an argument. Another example is, for example, display value passing an int dot parse, passing in like some large number. Okay, so here we have this will be, yeah, this is going to take a while to do. How much more we got here? Not that much, but I don't think we definitely can finish this in one shot here. Where are we? I could do a bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Wait, where are we here? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more slides can we do? Let's try to do 4 more. Okay, so we have, so the next thing is argument and parameter data type compatibility. Argument and parameter data type compatibility. Okay. An argument's data type must be assignment compatible with the receiving parameter's data type. Of course, your types have to match in C#. Pretty much any language your types need to match except for Python. So an argument's data type must be assigned. So an argument's data type. An argument's data type must be assignment compatible with the receiving parameter's data type. So an argument's data type must be compatible with the receiving parameter's data type. Basically, you can pass only string arguments into string parameters. You can so you can pass int arguments into int parameters, but you cannot pass double or decimal arguments into int parameters. You can pass either double or int arguments to double parameters, but you cannot pass decimal values to double parameters. You can pass either decimal. So these actually might be questions on a test too, because these are kind of C# tricky questions. You can pass decimal or int arguments to decimal parameters, but you cannot pass double arguments into decimal parameters. That's kind of, maybe I should type those out. Maybe not. So let's just go over it again. So you can pass, so string, obviously string and a string. You can pass int to an int, but you cannot pass a double to a decimal to an int, because of course a double would have more data. Would have a fraction which an int wouldn't be able to. You get a loss of data there because of the fractional part. So that's an easy one to remember. So you can pass either double or int to double parameters, but you cannot pass decimal values to double parameters, probably because of the m. Doubles can't have that m that the decimal has. And you can pass either decimal or int to decimal parameters, but you cannot pass double arguments into decimal parameters. I think that's the tricky one. Probably the reason being is that because decimals are formatted with the m, whereas it might get confused with a double. So we don't really have to type that out. So this one, passing multiple arguments, so you can pass more than one argument to a method. You can have multiple parameters and so on. So let's just maybe do some code examples of those. Okay, whoops, I reset the mic here. Okay, where we are. What happened to this? Okay, there we go. So let's say we have passing multiple arguments. So passing multiple arguments, so you can pass, we don't need to type this out, so you can pass multiple arguments to parameters, or methods, whatever. Sorry, multiple, you can pass more than one, basically you can have more than one parameter or an argument. So let's have an example here, private void show button click underscore click. Show button 1 underscore click, and let's just say that takes parameter object sender. Event args as well. So those are multiple parameters. And here we'll do the multiple arguments. So we'll say, okay, so show max whatever some value. So here we're passing in double arguments. So you separate them with a comma. You don't have to put a space. You can. It's good to put it so you can distinguish them from afar. We're really quickly scrolling through. You can see that comma. Some people do it like that. It's up to you. I just keep it like that. Sometimes even like this. Usually like this is probably the best thing to do. Here we could have another example. So private, let's just say we have private void show button 2 underscore click. Let's just say object sender comma event args e. So let's say here have int val points to some number, and val2 points to some number. Let's say we have show max or show val. Let's just call set val. Passing in val and val2. So that's passing more than one argument to a method. So then we could have for example, let's call this one let's call this one set val. Just so I can keep it consistent here, then we could actually define set val. So we could say that we have private void set val takes let's just say it takes int val1 as well, and a val2, or just val and val2, just like that. Okay, so then now we have, let's just say we have named arguments. So C# allows you to specify which parameter an argument should be passed into. So the syntax is parameter name colon value. An argument that is written using this syntax is known as a named argument. So you could have private void show button underscore click that takes parameter object sender and event argz. Then you could say show name. You could pass in so you could say colon Smith in a string and then comma first name colon Suzanne. So C# allows you to specify which parameter an argument should be passed into. Specifies C# allows you to specify which parameter. Okay. So you can sometimes just, this is a kind of a different syntax. As an argument, yes, so it's called a named argument. So maybe let's just write this bit out because it's a bit confusing. So let's say you have let's say C# allows you to specify which parameter an argument should be passed into. So the syntax is, we'll do a code example of this, don't worry, like later on in the lab and all that. So we'll have parameters, so basically it's like parameter name colon value. So then here we could say, so basically, so like a note that we could also say is that an argument, argument that is written using this syntax is known as a named named argument. So I'll just show the syntax here. Okay, I see what's happening. Okay, so you could have a variable, they didn't really show it here, but I'm assuming, so let me just, I'm going off here on you guys and you guys don't know what I'm talking about again. Okay, hold on a sec. So let's have, let me show you what I'm talking about first. So let's just say we have this. Let's just say we have private void. I was like, what is this guy talking about again? He's always like, thinks everybody knows what he's talking about. Like, what an idiot. And I know that feeling, like when professors do that and you have no idea what they're talking about at all. They're just talking about something that they know that no one else knows. And they think everyone else knows for some reason, when it wasn't in the book or anything. Or the notes. Okay, so basically, let's just say we called show val. Or let's just say show str in this case. And let's just say we had str1. Okay, let's go with name in this. Let's go with the name example then. So show name, so here we could have last name. And basically you're passing Appleseed to last name. Imagine you have like a method declaration. Okay, let me try to show what's happening here. Okay, so then let's just say we have a first name. Okay, so then we have, what the heck happened there? Something's glitching out. That's strange. Okay, let me try to copy these. We're on named arguments. So writer's glitching out. That was a huge glitch out. Okay. So let's say we have, so this is a variable name here. Last name is the actual parameter name. We're passing in the argument Appleseed as a value. Then here we'll have first name, then we could pass in Johnny as the, however you spell that. Could be, so this is, so last name is the first parameter, first name is the second parameter, Appleseed corresponds with last name, it's actual parameter that you pass into the formal parameter, which is pretty much in C# they call it the argument is being passed to the parameter. And then here we have, this is the parameter and this is the argument value that's being passed to the parameter. So last name's going to store Appleseed and first name's going to store Johnny. It's a different syntax. I guess you can use it if you need to. I just prefer the normal way. So this is the same thing as basically doing this. And I assume that in that case, you could have a like private is it returning a string? Maybe it might, maybe not. So just private void show name. Then in that case, then it would take a last name. And it would take a it would take a string. Then I guess string last name and string first name. Then in this case, we could say that it does something. Could have like a string str1 or string str and string str2. We could say like well, we haven't done this in a while, but we'll try to get into this later on. So we could say the parameter passed in. So we could say yes, we could then point to str points to last name. They could say str2 points to first name. Then we could say str3. We could say string full name points to str plus str2 console.log full name. Whatever, something like that. So in this case, what's happening here is that you can reference it like this or you can reference it like that. It doesn't really matter. This way is easier, it seems. You might need to use this way. So we'll see if we can talk about that later on. Okay, so just one more here before we take a break. So default arguments. So default arguments, C# allows you to provide a default argument for a method parameter. So we could have, for example, private void show tax takes parameter decimal price, comma, decimal tax rate points to 0.07m. So I guess that's your default argument. Then you could say decimal tax points to price times tax rate. So we'll do an example of that in a sec. The value of tax rate is defaulted to 0.07m. You could simply call the method by passing only the price. Okay, so it's saying you don't have to call the default parameter. Then that can be confusing. This is a little bit confusing. So you can also override the default argument. Let's jot all this down. Okay, so we have default arguments. So C# allows you to provide a default argument for a method param. So here we could have example, we could say private void show tax, so okay, whatever, show tax. You have a decimal price it takes as a parameter and a decimal tax rate as a default parameter. Whatever. And here we could have decimal tax points to price times tax rate. So in this case, the tax rate is a default parameter because usually you would just say that it takes a decimal tax rate like that, and you would set the tax rate yourself. But in this case, we're saying, okay, well, the tax rate's gonna just be 0.10 M, and they can change it if they want to, I guess. So the value of tax rate is defaulted to 0.07 M. So you can simply call the method by passing only the price. So show tax, you could say show tax. So the value of the tax, so the value of tax rate is defaulted to 0. Let's space that out here. So the value of tax rate is defaulted to 0.0, sorry, this should be 0.010. So the value of tax rate is defaulted to 0.10 M up here. You can simply call the method by passing only the price. So here you can say price is this. You don't have to add in tax rate. You can also override the default argument by saying, for example, show tax 100.0 M that we just said before, and then we could say that we want to override the tax rate to 0.11 M. That's a method call right here. So that's pretty much it for now, and the next one we'll talk about passing arguments by reference, and I believe we'll also talk about passing arguments by value later on. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys liked the video, you can like and subscribe to support the channel for more programming and investing tutorials, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care.